Assalamualaikum everyone. I hope you are well. I'm good too, alhamdulillah. Okay, the speaker today is very special to me, very dear to me because she's my junior from Punjab University. She recently graduated as an architect, and she has the experience of working in field as well. But her passion is more towards teaching, and she's currently teaching the underprivileged students, and she has worked as volunteer for Peacemakers Pakistani organization as well, and we have a great bond regarding that, and I just appreciate her passion towards people and community and her love for the humanity. And she says that her aim is to pursue her master's degree in urban designing, and she loves to discover different cultures and communities, and this is what keeps us connected more. And this is something that she this is the reason one of the reason why she is here as a speaker. So I hope you enjoy the episode. I hope we learned something about the city of Lahore today as well. Do share your feedbacks and enjoy the episode. How are you? And congratulations on your graduation, mashallah. So how are you feeling now?
Thank you so much. I'm feeling good. Hope you're well too.
Alhamdulillah, I'm good, alhamdulillah. Okay, so I'm looking forward to your presentation, and thank you for making time for this. Even besides your thesis, it was ending, but you made sure that you are fulfilling your commitment to it. So let's start your presentation and
Thank
see
you
what
so
you have to
much.
share.
Yes.
Yeah, sure.
Yes.
Okay, you can share your screen.
Okay. So basically, the main topic that was Lahore. My focus was on literature of Lahore and heart of Pakistan. As said well by Faiz Ahmed Faiz, when he was being asked what is the basically culture known as, what is culture, then he said everything that exists in the soil. So we can say literature only can flourish in such a city which have a rich culture and a rich history. Further, I would like to go through a little bit of this history. Literature review basically. It starts from as the Jain heritage. It was a cultural center of Jainism, and Siddhartha used to stay in Mohalla Maulia inside Lahore Gate, basically oldest Mohalla. And you can find Jain artifact in Lahore Museum. And you can find the oldest document about Lahore in the British Museum known as Hudude-e-Alam. Why did Lahore got its significant position in literature and culture and history? Basically, it was exposed mainly on the high road reaching from Afghanistan to India. Now basically known as the GT road. It was basically in the middle of that road. Then we come to the Ghaznavid and Mamluk period. It was basically a capital of the Ghaznavid Empire and Mamluk dynasty. In the Ghaznavid Empire, Ayaz basically rebuilt and repopulated the city, and the city became a cultural and academic center, renowned basically for the poetry. And we can find the tomb of Malik Ayaz, Rang Mahal in the commercial area. Then Lahore basically attracted many poets and scholars from as far away as Turkestan, Great Khorasan, Persia, and Mesopotamia. And Lahore at this time had more poets writing in Persian than any city in Persia or Khorasan. Basically, because as we can see on the right, it is basically Mahmud of Ghaznavi sitting and having all the poets and writers surrounding him just because Mahmud preferred that his fame and glory be publicized in Persian and hundreds of poets assembled at his court. Further moving towards basically what literature contains. A city is preserved by basically two images. One is by the historians and one is by the poets. By the historians, it is basically the factual history of a city. And by the poets, it is basically the imaginary hunt for lively ethos of the life of a city. As we can see, the earliest English poet, Ghaznavid, explains in Paradise Lost as Lahore among those seven cities Adam saw from the hill of paradise. Then another English writer and a poet, Thomas Moore's Lalla Rookh, an Oriental romance describes Lahore as a place of enchantment, saying brilliant displays of life and pageantry among the palaces and gilded minarets of Lahore made the city altogether like a place of enchantment. Then further, Dr. G. W. Leitner made an Anjuman in Lahore named as Anjuman-e-Punjab. Basically, all the literati belonging mostly from the North India joined this Anjuman, including Muhammad Hassan Azad, Altaf Hussain Ali, Maulvi Muqarrab Ali, Pandit Krishan Lal Talib. It was a new kind of mushairas, mainly poetry gatherings, laid the basis of new school of Urdu poetry in Lahore. In the Anjuman-e-Punjab, it was basically recited nazm, usually written in the form of masnavi, on a specified topic, contrary to the earlier tradition of mushaira, where poets used to be free to recite their ghazal. As basically Hafiz Mahmud Shirani, an Urdu and Persian scholar, in his Punjab Mein Urdu, said that Punjab is the origin of Urdu language and it was Punjabi, which is the legitimate mother of Urdu. But he was not basically 100% correct. As further, it is said that Deccan became the first center of Urdu poetry, where first divan of Urdu ghazal was produced. Caravan of Urdu poetry then moved to Delhi in 18th century, which arrived in Lahore in late 19th century. The new school of Urdu poetry in Lahore owed by its very existence to the colonial policies of the British, which were embedded in reform instead of patronage. From then on, poets, writers, and artists have kept pouring in Lahore. Almost all the distinguished poets of 20th century Urdu literature belong to Punjab or they settled in Lahore before and after the partition. How Lahore was replacing all the centers of culture and literatures like of Oud and Delhi has been described by Akhtar Shirani, son of Hafiz Mahmud Shirani and most popular poet of early 20th century. As he says, कब तलक रौनक शाम ऊद एमा रवा शाम लाहौर को भी सुबह बना दे आकर घूमती देखा चक्की चलवा आरस की बहार सतारावी को भी आईना बना दे आकर, which basically means for how long the brilliancy of the Oud's evening will be celebrated. O moving moon, come to turn Lahore's evening into morning. Gomati has seen the spring of lustre of cheek. Now Ravi's surface should be edified into a mirror. How Lahore basically attracted poets, especially after the partition, across the subcontinent is passionately described by Nasir Kazmi in an unforgettable couplet. शहर लाहौर तेरी रौनक दाइमाबाद तेरी गलियों की हवा खींच के लाई मुझको, which basically is translated as O city of Lahore, may your liveliness perpetuate forever. The breeze of your streets allowed me to be settled here. Majid Amjad's poem makes us feel how desolately casement of tomb oversees the barren Ravi and how modern developed Lahore has eclipsed its past glories. उफ वो रावी का किनारा वो घटा छाई हुई शाम के दामन में सब्जे पे बहार आई हुई शफक के बादलों में नीलबो सुर्खी का रंग और रावी की तलाई नकरी लहरों में जंग. Tilak Chand Mehroom's Noor Jahan ka Mazar. He basically said, Shohrat Bukhari says about Tilak Chand Mehroom Noor Jahan ka Mazar. टूटा हुआ एक साहिल रावी पे मकां है दिन को भी जहां शब की स्याही का समा है. Cities are like basically human psyche. Both have brighter and darker sides, where Urdu poets have vehemently portrayed the allures, bustles, dazzles, and radiance of cultural life of Lahore. They have revealed the murky aspects of the beloved cities too. Shoaib bin Aziz prays basically, मेरे लाहौर पर भी एक नजर कर, तेरा मक्का रहे आबाद मौला. Oh my Lord, may your Makkah keep thriving. Have a glance on my Lahore also. Once Urdu poets used to adore the captivating splendor of rivers of Narbada, Ganges, and Gomati. Later Urdu poetry, the river Ravi, starts appearing as a much-loved river. Allama Iqbal wrote a splendid poem, Tilted Kinare Ravi, on the bank of Ravi. Standing on a bank of Ravi, Iqbal comes to realize that silent rhythm of river is mysteriously connected to the songs human hearts sing in loneliness. In this poem, River Ravi emerges on one side as a guardian of Lahore, and on the other symbolizes eternity. In one way, Iqbal seems to be suggesting the eternity of enchantment of Lahore too, basically translated by Parizad, saying, lost in its own silent rhythm, the Ravi sings its song. In its undulating flow, I see the reflections in my heart. The willows, the world in worship of God. Life flows on this river of eternity. Man is not born this way, doesn't perish this way, undefeated. Life lives beyond the horizon, but it does not end there. Then basically environment of literature. Basically that means there needs to be a particular environment that needs its literature to be flourished, and we can find it in Lahore. First of all, in a party house. As one enters the tea house, one can feel the literary nostalgia through old pictures of celebrated poets, writers, and musicians beautifully displayed on the walls, with its checkerboard flooring, off-white and yellow cemented walls, flaky masonry, and street lights. The party house for a moment takes you back to 50s and 60s. One is guaranteed to find tea that is good enough to foster intellectual debates. Many of the old customers, including writers and poets, miss the previous place and staff, but they're happy that the tea house is open again, calling it the rebirth of the party house. The culture of intellectual meetings and book launches has also begun to take hold once again. As we can see in the pictures below, the old poets reciting their poems and having a gathering at the party house. Further about Pakti House, place signified freedom of thought and provided ambience for creative work, and used as a meeting place for the Progressive Writers Association and the Alkai Ababizok. It served as the watering hole for Faiz Ahmad Faiz, Saadat Hasan Minto, Amrita Pritham, Munshi Premchand, Munir Niazi, Habib Jalib, Ashfaq Ahmed, and many others. How can we miss the writers and poets who made the identity of Lahore in its literature, basically? First of all, we come with Harbhajan Singh, mainly belonging from the Khushab. The family moved to Lahore when they bought two houses in Gawal Mandi. Harbhajan is credited with revolutionizing the Punjabi poetry writing style. He published 7 collections of poems, including Registan, which Lakarhara, 19 works of literary history, and translated 14 pieces of literature of others, including those of Aristotle, Sophocles, Rabindranath Tagore, and selections from the Rig Veda. Then comes Amjad Islam Amjad. Amjad Islam Amjad, basically the holder of Sitare Imtiaz, is an Urdu poet, drama writer, and a lyricist from Punjab, Pakistan. The author of more than 40 books in a career spanning 50 years. He received awards, Pride of Performance, and Sitare Imtiaz for his literary work and screenplay for TV, and received the prestigious Nasib Fazil International Culture and Art Award at the ceremony in Istanbul. He was also a part of event at GCU Lahore, where Lahore was designated as the City of Literature by UNESCO in 2019. This make it part of an international creative cities network of 246 cities, next to cities like Dublin, Barcelona, Melbourne, and Seattle. Then comes the famous Faiz Ahmad Faiz. Faiz Ahmad Faiz was a Pakistani poet and author in Urdu, in which he was most celebrated, and Punjabi language. Outside literature, he has been described as a man of wide experience, having been a teacher, an army officer, a journalist, a trade unionist, and a broadcaster. Faiz was nominated for the Nobel Prize in Literature and won the Lenin Peace Prize. Then comes Anwar Masood. His father, Muhammad Azim, moved to Lahore a few years before partition in 1947. After his elementary education in Gujarat and Lahore, he attended Watan High School on Grantham Road, Lahore. In fact, he became a gold medalist in MA Persian and taught in Punjab University, Lahore. He retired from the teaching profession in 1996. Then comes the famous Zamir Jafri. Zamir Jafri became famous for his Urdu humorous poetry and columns in the newspaper and periodicals. After graduating from Punjab University, he joined army and retired as a major. He published more than 50 books in Urdu. Now, his son and grandson are operating a non-profit foundation which provides health services, educational means, etc., basically to strengthen the underprivileged communities of Pakistan. And also, Mata is Amij, an archive of his books and contributions. Then comes Nasir Kazmi, basically migrated from Ambala to Lahore after independence, continued his studies at Islamia College. Being an eager foodist, he liked to pass his time at tea house and liked to wander with friends at Mall Road to enjoy life with every possible means. Studying Nasir Kazmi's sad poetry, people termed him as a melancholic poet. However, many pieces of his poetry were based on romantic hope as well. One of Kazmi's later interviews was conducted when he was confined in bed in Lahore Mayor's Hospital. During the interview, he seemed revived and talked animatedly. But at the end of the interview, he seemed sad and requested that his salam to the trees and the birds of Lahore is conveyed. Then comes the famous Manto. Manto was basically a Pakistani writer, playwright, and author. Writing mainly in Urdu, produced 22 collections of short stories, a novel, 5 series of radio plays, 3 collections of essays, and 2 collections of personal sketches. Subject of 2 biographical films, Manto directed by Sarmat Khusat and the 2018 film Manto directed by Nanditas Das. Manto lived with his extended family in a large apartment in the posh Lakshmi Mansion, an apartment complex situated between Hall Road and Bedia Road, which had a circular enclosed green space with a peepal tree. Lakshmi building was later abandoned and its facade still exists, renovated and painted. Manto's grave at Miani Sahab graveyard in Lahore, with engraved by his family. This is the grave for Sadat Hasan Manto, who still thinks his name was not the repeated word on the tablet of time. Then we come across Ahmed Nadeem Qasmi, a Pakistani poet, journalist, literary critic, dramatist, and short story author, namely Ahmed Shah Awan, his real name. After graduation from University of the Punjab, Qasmi started his career as a government clerk, which he eventually left to pursue journalism. Active member of the Progressive Writers Movement, was run by him. He wrote 50 books on topics such as poetry, fiction, criticism, journalism, and art, and was a major figure in contemporary Urdu literature. His poetry and Urdu Afsana, basically short story work, is considered most. Editor and publisher of literary magazine Fanoon. He received awards Pride of Performance and Sitare Imtiaz for his literary work. Gulzar, one of the most influential writers in modern India, called him his mentor and guru. Some of the libraries in Lahore are Defence Public Library in Defence, Punjab Public Library on Library Road, Qaid-e-Azam Library in Bagh-e-Jinnah, and Dayal Singh Trust Library Gawalmandi, Government Model Town Library, British Council Library on Muzang Road. Places where one can find and explore more about Lahore's literature are Lahore Museum, Army Museum, National History Museum, Alhambra Art Council, and Naqsh Art Gallery. Thank you, presented by Fatima Arif. And this is the picture of Lahore Literary Festival that is held annually in Lahore.
Thank you so much for sharing about the great personalities that belong to Lahore and that have made the city and known as the city of literature. It's amazing to know about these personalities, and I'm glad that you have shared it well. It's amazing that we have the culture of libraries in Lahore. We have libraries in Lahore that are that must be more engaging for the students and for the people for the public in general, and to promote the literature and to promote more interest of people and interest of students towards literature and towards the culture of literature, I guess, like
Yes,
writing
basically
and
the
expression of
libraries. I agree.
expression
The Qaid-e-Azam Library, Punjab Library. Basically, that culture is basically dying, I think, reading culture of libraries.
yes, the reading culture is actually dying, and also that these places are standing alone. There is no
Yeah, exactly.
diversity in that area. There is no public engagement in those areas. Like if we have square around these areas, it can be more engaging and more lively and more attractive to people, especially youngsters. And if we are having our focus towards the education in terms of this this part of culture, then I guess the nation can improve better. And also the we can see in restaurants that people are using these eateries to attract the people towards literature and reading culture, which is
Yes.
something that we must appreciate. And lastly, the museum. I guess the museums are a great opportunity to engage people with literature and also the facts and how life people used to live in the past.
Yes,
So
and basically
this,
the thing, I think I was really underestimating the basically Lahore as I'm living in it. I think I was really underestimating it, but when I read about it, the basically vast culture and vast history, the literature hub, basically Lahore having its literature based because of its history. Like the new cities, we can say like Islamabad, it's not having any history, so we cannot say it's like having any literature of its own. So it's like a treasure for us to live in Lahore too,
yeah,
and the
definitely.
Rabi especially.
We need to appreciate that. We need to appreciate and own it and live by its live by the identity and take the legacy forward, definitely. So I'm glad
Exactly.
that you have taken this opportunity and you have presented well. So thank you so much for your time. Thank you so much for your
Thank you
effort.
so much. Thank you so much for having me here.
I'm glad to have you. Okay, take care and Allah Hafiz.
Allah Hafiz. Take care.